Hello again. This episode, I'm going to cover properly measuring headspace and bullet length or cartridge length. So, one of the tools that I use that there's a little bit of debate on as to whether this is the most accurate or not, right? You could end up jamming the bullet into the rifling and so forth. But you want to figure out exactly where the rifling is in your barrel, right, when you're loading. Um, some bullets like to be jammed right into that rifling, like VLDs, for example. That's fairly common. And some bullets prefer a jump, like Burger hybrids. They usually like to be jumped a bit. And so, what does that mean? Well, inside your barrel, in the chamber, right? Obviously, your chamber is cut the shape of the cartridge, right? And so, at some point, uh, you've got the free bore or the throat, and then the rifling begins past that. And so when you pull the trigger, obviously the primer gets struck, the powder's ignited, and then the bullet is forced down the bore, right? And so when the bullet leaves the case, it makes contact with the rifling, and we want to know exactly how far it has to travel or how long we can load this cartridge here. How far out can we seat the bullet before we run into the rifling, right? And so one of the ways that you can figure that out is by the use of this tool right here. It's called the Hornady Lock and Load OAL gauge. You'll hear some guys that have been loading for a while refer to it as the Stony Point tool. But essentially the way it works is you've got this plastic rod with a little knob there, right? So we loosen the knob and pull that rod, and you'll see here that the rod is protruding through like that, right? And so we'll pull that rod back, and then that allows us to put a bullet in there, right? And so we'll take this bullet and stick it in there, and then you push that rod. See, and it pushes the bullet. So then all you do is you take this contraption and you take your bolt out of your rifle and you jam it up through the rear of the action until it's shouldered up in the chamber nice and square. And then you keep pressure on this. Here, you push this into the chamber to keep the shoulders pushed in the chamber. And then you simply push this. And I just dropped my bullet on the floor. But what that does then is it pushes the bullet out the front of the case, right? And obviously you don't want it to come out of the case. If it falls out of the case, then you're not going to be able to load that bullet to touch the rifling, right? But then once you push that forward and it stops, right, then you just tighten this screw and then pull the tool back out of there. And you may have to knock the bullet out of the rifling using a cleaning rod. And so you do that. And then grab that bullet. And so then once you've done that, you simply put the bullet back in. I've got that a little too far. So you simply put the bullet back in there, right? And then use one of these tools here that's on the table. And so we need to find the one for 6.5, right? So that's 6. 25. There we go, 26. Right, so now these tools here, these are part of a kit. I bought a couple of these kits just because I like having spares around. So we'll loosen this one up. This is set for 22 caliber. So we'll drop that one out. We'll put in the one for 26 caliber. This is 6.547, right? And so then we'll just take this tool here and we'll put it onto the jaws of our caliper. Tighten that up so it stays put. And then we'll turn on the caliper, make sure we're zeroed. And then that's the reason for this little notch that's cut in here, right? Is we'll just take the caliper and slide that in there like so. Make sure you're nice and square on that jaw. And there you go. So 2128, 2129. I guess depending on how much you wiggle it. 2128, 217. So that's as far then as I can load before that bullet's going to contact the rifling in that chamber, right? And of course we just made this up, but so then now that you know where the rifling is roughly, right? Because again, that is going to jam the bullet into the rifling a little bit. So now though, you've got a good starting point. You know you want to load shorter than that, unless you're trying to jam the bullet into the rifling. Like I said, in the case of maybe with a VLD or something similar. So now you load a cartridge, and so here's a loaded cartridge here. So you can take this same tool, right, and we can measure, and this is my reference cartridge for my chamber. So there you go. Oh, look at that. I guessed pretty close with that tool. Look at that, 2128. That's my reference cartridge, so that I know where the rifling is in my 6.5 barrels. Oh, wow. Okay. I bet I'll never be able to do that again. But, so, now when you load one up, seat the bullet a little deeper, you can measure exactly where you've got that, right? And so this is a much more cost-effective alternative to that Redding instant indicator, which I believe I did do a review on. If not, remind me to get one up there. I'll take a look after I finish this recording. But the nice thing about this tool then is it comes with all these different size inserts, right, to allow you to measure multiple cartridges, right? And of course on the back here it tells you which size you need for what. These ones here, they're printed right on them, you know. So here's 25. This is 24 for like a 243 or something. Here's 22. This is 28 for 7mm. Here's 27. 26, you know, so it tells you, and this one here is 30, so for like 308 or 300 Win Mag. So you can swap these around then, so that you can measure the overall length from base to ogive, right? Because that's what everybody's trying to figure out is you read that. What's the CBTO, or the cartridge base to ogive, right? And that's what that measurement is. It's from the cartridge base here to the ogive of the bullet, and so that length, like I said, you want to keep that, unless you're intending to jam the bullet into the rifling, which with hybrids and like Sierra Match Kings and stuff, those normally you want to jump those at least a bit, right? My 223 Ackley, I jumped 20 thousandths. My 6.5 with hybrids, that I jumped 50 thousandths. That just happens to be where that rifle likes it. But so this allows you to measure that for multiple different cartridges, and very cost effectively, much less expensive than that Redding tool. And so then another piece of this kit here then are these, and so these are shoulder gauges, right? So you put these on the jaws. Tighten that up. And now you can measure, if this is the right size. Yep. So now you can measure where the shoulder is of that cartridge, right? So this one here is just a never been fired piece of 223 reference. This is actually where the rifling is on my 223 Ackley. But so now we're measuring the shoulder. You'll notice that the whole bullet and everything, the neck, all goes up inside of that tool. And so you square that off, and so now you're measuring the distance of the shoulder, right? It would probably help if I zeroed that first. Let's say that looks a little long. So there we go. That looks better. So that's where the shoulder is on that cartridge. And then after you fire a cartridge, so here's a piece of fired Ackley brass. And so 1487 is a piece of fired Ackley brass. And the regular 223 brass, brand new, right? So you can see the shoulder gets blown forward quite a bit. But so this is helpful then so that you can set your sizing dies, right? So you measure a piece of fired brass so that you know where the shoulder is, and then resize it, and then you can measure how far back you're pushing the shoulder, right? Guys talk about, oh, I only bumped the shoulder 1,000th or 1,000th and a half or 2,000ths or what have you. Well, this is one way of measuring that. And again, it's only going to be as accurate as your calipers, and you really should use this this other piece here so that you get a nice square. All right, so let me screw this on. All right, and then we'll zero that, right? Because otherwise the cartridge base is off center from the jaws. So there you go. That's what that would look like. And then one other nice thing about this, though, is that you can use this to measure the base to ogive to sort bullets, right? So you'll see guys talking about that as well. Should I sort bullets? Should I not sort bullets? Should I sort by weight? What should I be doing? Well, so let me change this to 22. All right, because I've got a box of 22 bullets handy here, so we'll okay. Put this back on. Zero that. Okay, and so now we've got a 22 bullet here that's trying to get away on me. But so this is a Berger 80.5 full bore. All right, so we can take this and put that in there like so, and that'll measure the base of the bullet to the ogive, right? So roughly 619 is what that one came out to. So we'll try another one here. See how repeatable, or how yeah, so not too bad, right? 620. Make sure we're nice and square there. Oh, there we go. 619.5, just like the last one. So obviously, whether or not you've got the bullets squared up in there, there's a little bit of variance to this, and it'll take some practice for you to get it right. But there's all kinds of different ways that you can put these tools together to measure what you're after. You can use multiple of these inserts, right? So you see that I've got multiple pieces like this, obviously. And so we can put this together here, right? And then if I put the same size insert on both of these, which I don't have, but assuming that I did, then you could take these same bullets, right? And the boat tail would go into one end, right? So the boat tail would go into this hole here, and then the hole on the other side, the ogive would go up into, and then that way you can measure the bearing surface of the bullet, right? Some guys like to sort that way. It all depends on what you're after. But this set of tools here is, geez, these are pretty inexpensive. I think about $40 maybe. And you can see my caliper is nothing fancy at all. Honestly, I got this thing at Harbor Freight, I think maybe for, $15 or something, and I probably overpaid then. But it works. It measures things, and it's repeatable. You set zero, it goes back to zero every time. So I'm plenty pleased with it. But yeah, measuring your rounds if you're going to start reloading is very important. And so you definitely want to have a caliper rather. And if you're going to reload precision rifle stuff, you want to be able to measure the base to ogive length and figure out where your rifling is and exactly how long you can load. And so one of the benefits then of being able to load a little bit longer than you would in a factory chambering, for example, is that if you seat the bullet out farther, you can fit more powder into the case, right? And so you get a little bit more velocity out of it that way. Or it'll allow you to use a different powder that you couldn't use before, because now you've increased the amount of available volume in the case. But those are all pretty advanced topics. I'm not trying to get into them here. Obviously, reload at your own risk. You are creating things that could explode, and so follow your load manuals and be safe. And if anybody wants to discuss any of this, or you have any questions about any of it, feel free to stop by precisionrifleforums.com, drop into the reloading section, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.